The first lie you ever believed didn't come from a book or a parent or a priest. It came from inside you. It wasn't taught. It wasn't spoken. It just appeared. A shape in fog. A feeling that became a story. A story that became a memory. And that memory was never real. We've been doing this since the beginning, since we carved gods into stone, and told ourselves we remembered where we came from. But it starts smaller than that. It starts with you, right now. Close your eyes. Try to remember your very first memory, not the one you always tell people, but the one beneath that. A flicker, a smell, the blur of a hallway or a forgotten face. It feels like yours, doesn't it? Like something only you could hold. But what if I told you that memory isn't real? Not because you were deceived, not because someone tampered with your brain, but because your brain is the one doing the lying. And not just once, not just occasionally, but constantly. Your memory is not a camera, it's a con artist. And the worst part, it doesn't even know it's lying. Write down your earliest memory. Seriously, pause this and do it now. The colors, the room, the emotion, everything. Now set a reminder for 30 days. Come back and read what you wrote. You won't notice it changing, but it will. It's called memory drift. The brain doesn't store events, it stores stories. Every time you remember something, you're not opening a vault. You're editing a dream, a reconstruction wearing the mask of truth. Scientists tried this experiment in 2004. They asked hundreds of adults to describe their first memory. So many answered confidently. When I was 1, maybe 2. But they were wrong. The hippocampus, the part of your brain that stores long-term memory, isn't fully online until you're about 3. So where did those early memories come from? Photos, family stories, and pure invention. Your first memory may be a beautiful lie, a movie trailer stitched together from other people's recollections, and you play the starring role in a film that never existed. If that one's fake, what else is? What if your entire past is a screenplay rewritten each time you recall it? Imagine remembering being lost in a mall as a child. You feel the panic, the echo of your footsteps, the gentle voice of a stranger. You remember crying into your mother's arms when she found you. But what if that memory was placed there by someone else? Psychologist Elizabeth Loftus did just that. She asked family members for real childhood details, then inserted a fake story, the mall, the stranger, the rescue. At first, participants laughed. That never happened, they said. But after a few interviews, something eerie occurred. They remembered it, not just vaguely, in vivid cinematic detail. I remember the man's beard, one said. He gave me gum. None of it was true. The mind filled in the blanks, not because it wanted to lie, but because it craved coherence. A false story that feels true becomes true. And if a stranger can rewrite your childhood with a suggestion, how much of your past is authored by others? Let's say you do have a real memory, an authentic event, no suggestion, no false start. Even then, your brain won't leave it alone. Every time you remember it, you rewrite it. Memory reconsolidation is the term. But it's not just a term, it's a trap. You believe you're recalling, but you're editing. A word, a tone, a glance. New emotions sneak in, old ones vanish. 9/11. People were asked years later where they were that day. Half of them told a new story. and believed it more than the original. Even confronted with evidence, they refused to change. The memory had evolved, and so had they. This isn't dysfunction, it's function. Your brain doesn't preserve the past, it reprograms it. For now. So the argument you had last week might not have gone the way you remember. The betrayal from a friend may be softer, maybe sharper. Even your identity, that stable narrative thread, is made of rewrites. Why would evolution allow this? Why make memory so slippery? Because memory was never about truth. It was about usefulness. Two figures walk through the jungle. One sees movement in the bushes and says, probably just wind. The other imagines a predator and runs. The second one survives, even if they were wrong. That's the logic your memory runs on. Not truth, but threat detection. Not accuracy, but advantage. This is called adaptive memory. It strips out the irrelevant. It patches holes with guesses. It exaggerates emotions, so you'll remember what mattered, not what happened. It's not a flaw, it's the feature. But with that power comes a price. Because the moment memory becomes a story, it becomes vulnerable to suggestion, to distortion, to control. A woman points at a man in court, says, "That's him. I remember his face." She's calm, certain, convinced her memory is flawless. But she's wrong. 18 years later, DNA clears him. He never touched her. Her mind had filled in what fear couldn't see, and once the false image took root, it bloomed. Stephen Avery was one of hundreds, wrongfully convicted by memory, not by malice, by certainty. Because false memories don't feel false, they feel realer than real, because they come with emotion, story, purpose, and your brain loves purpose more than it loves truth. Interrogations twist people into confessing to things they never did, not because they're weak, but because pressure reshapes memory like clay. Therapists unintentionally implant stories. Did anything happen to you when you were young? A question becomes a seed, and the mind grows a garden around it. Entire nations remember things that never happened, wars that were never started, monuments built on myth. Propaganda doesn't need to change history. It just needs to make you remember it differently. And now, every time you scroll, every time you listen, someone is sculpting your memory, not with force, with story, and the scariest part. You'll defend that story, even when it's wrong, especially when it's wrong. So what can you trust? If your memories are painted, not photographed, if they edit themselves the moment you look, if they protect, invent, and distort, what is left to believe in? That's where it turns, not into fear, but into awareness, because understanding the lie is the only way to see what's real. Next time a vivid memory grabs you, pause. Ask, what part of this feels too perfect? What part arrived too easily? Because those are often the implants, the smooth edits, the polished lies. Be suspicious of certainty, especially your own. This doesn't mean you discard every memory. It means you hold them loosely, gently, like smoke in your hands. It means you become a witness to your own brain, instead of its puppet. And that's a kind of freedom. A perfect memory would be a curse. Imagine remembering every detail, every wound, every mistake, like a scar that never fades. That's not a life, that's a loop. Your memory distorts for a reason, to keep you moving, to help you forgive, to let you forget just enough. So maybe the lie isn't the problem. Maybe it's the belief that memory is supposed to be true. Because what if memory was never about what happened, but about who you became after it? Then forgetting isn't failure, it's evolution. So rewind. Go back to the beginning of this video. How much of it do you remember? Honestly? Has your mind already stitched in new thoughts, blurred the edges, deleted a sentence? You wouldn't know. And that's the point. Each time you recall this message, you're remembering a memory of a memory, a shadow of a shadow, a mirror that doesn't show your reflection, but reflects what you need to see. And maybe that's the most honest thing your brain will ever do. Drop a comment. What's your earliest memory? Do you think it ever really happened? And if this shattered your trust in memory, wait until you realize the self is made of the same material. The storyteller never sleeps, but you don't have to believe the story.